Before the first stone was laid, there was only the sound of the wind, an environment defined by constant sound and relentless kinetic energy. While others focused on the soil beneath their feet, a boy named Aaron looked toward the horizon. He didn't just feel the breeze, he listened to it, treating every gust as a messenger carrying news from distant lands. The villagers saw this as a waste of time. To them, air was an empty void, couldn't be weighed on a scale, used to forge a blade, or stacked into a wall. By valuing only the heavy and the tangible, the village had developed a blind spot. They forgot that the sturdy buildings they prized depended on the very atmosphere they dismissed. Then, without warning, the motion stopped. The wind vanished. At first, the people felt a sense of relief. Their world felt perfectly safe. But that safety came with a cost. Without the wind, the rivers stagnated. Crops withered because there were no currents to carry pollen. The sky turned a heavy, bruised gray as the air grew thick and unmoving. The villagers realized they had achieved a total lack of conflict at the expense of their own survival. A world without the chaos of weather was a world that could no longer support life. An ancient traveler eventually arrived with a grim explanation. This wasn't a natural change in the weather. The wind had been deliberately chained, held captive at the top of the world. They were learning the hard way that the absolute absence of movement isn't peace. It is the first sign of a system that is beginning to suffocate. Aaron began the climb alone. As he ascended the world's tallest mountain, he left the dying valley behind for a landscape of total, frozen silence, a place where even the echoes of his footsteps seemed to die in the motionless air. To see what was at stake, we have to look at the wind as the Earth's atmospheric circulatory system. It acts like a series of arteries, constantly pushing moisture from the oceans deep into the land. Stagnant air breaks this hydrological cycle. Moisture pools uselessly over the water, leaving the inland forests to turn brown and arid as the rain simply stops falling. This reaches down to the smallest seeds. Without air currents to scatter them, new life drops straight into the shadow of the parent plant, failing to find the space or soil needed to grow. The storms we fear are the very things that drive the Earth's biological engine. Without that friction, the entire machine grinds to a halt. Aaron reached the summit and found a fortress of sterile stone. At its center sat a cage made of crystal, designed to hold back the sky itself. Inside, the wind spirit was a volatile force of silver and storm, compressed into a shape it was never meant to take. The ruler of the fortress stood guard, convinced of his own righteousness. He believed that by capturing the wind, he had ended uncertainty and replaced chaos with total safety. He defined perfect order as the end of all change. He couldn't see that by stopping the wind, he had condemned the valley below to a slow, silent death. In his attempt to become the world's ultimate protector, the ruler had successfully become its greatest threat. The ruler attacked with the full weight of his steel. Aaron didn't fight back. He stood still, closing his eyes to filter out the noise of the battle, listening to the cage. He heard a whisper from the crystal, not a call for war, but a song of expansion. He recognized the wind as a force of boundless freedom that was never intended to be a weapon. Aaron realized the fundamental truth of the valley. The forces that sustain life cannot be owned or chained by any single hand. With a single touch, Aaron shattered the cage. The suppressed energy of the atmosphere erupted outward, flooding the sky in a single massive burst. Overturning an entire system of control didn't require a sword. It only required a shift in how Aaron understood the nature of the thing being controlled. The wind didn't strike the ruler down. It simply moved past him. It had no interest in conquering, only in returning to the currents it was meant to follow. Across the world, the returning currents breathed life back into the landscape. Clouds raced, and the stagnant gray forests were replaced by vibrant green. Fire teaches balance, water teaches adaptation, but air teaches something more vital. It is the embodiment of freedom. The moment we sacrifice the freedom to move for the promise of perfect safety, we lose the very thing that makes us alive.